I'm going to continue the fantastic series of Daf Yomi. Friends, we're on page number 10 of Masechet Zevachim over here in today's Daf Yomi, making fantastic progress here. Just before Rosh Hashanah, according to the Mishnah, we learned back in Daf Bet in page number 2 Aleph, if a sacrifice was brought with the wrong intention, for example, where at the time of slaughter, the owner thought that this animal was to serve as a different sacrifice, it remains a valid sacrifice. This is what we learned before. Although it does not count for its original purpose, and it was, let's say, obligated to bring a korban, sacrifice, the owner will have, let's just say, another sacrifice in himself respectively. The only exceptions, let's just say, are, let's say, the Passover sacrifice, Korban Pesach, which we learned about yesterday in yesterday's page, and a sin offering, the Korban Chatat, which must be, let's just say, brought with a proper intent. Now, Rabbi Eliezer argues that a Korban, Asham, a guilt offering, is going to be different over here. In what way? Also, this is must be brought with a proper intent. The Korban Asham must be the guilt offering, respectively, over here. Now, his reasoning, as it appears in the Mishnah, is that the Asham is similar to the Chatat in that they both come to atone for sin. Therefore, if the Chatat must be brought with a proper intent, the Asham itself, the guilt offering, must be brought with a proper intent as well. So it mirrors out. Now, on today's page of the Gemara, we're going to learn that a Breita is brought where we find an expanded version of this argument. Rabbi Yoshua responds to Rabbi Eliezer that a Korban Chatat and a Korban Asham are not similar and cannot be compared, since the blood from the sin offering is sprinkled on the upper part, let's just say, of the altar. Now, the altar was divided into two parts, we learn, an upper and a lower part. As great commentator Rashi actually explains, in the Mishkan, in Tabernacle, the altar has a ledge halfway up, as we learn about in Sefer Shemot in chapter 27. While in the temple, the Bet HaMikdash, altar was divided up by, let's say, Ha-Skira, I believe. It's a red line that was drawn in order to divide the top half of the altar from the bottom half, in order to show where the blood, let's say, of the different sacrifices had to be sprinkled. Now, it's interesting to add on, of all the sacrifices, only a sin offering brought from an animal and a burnt offering brought from the fowl had their blood sprinkled on the upper part of the altar. Blood, let's say, from all the other sacrifices was sprinkled on the lower part of the altar. That was the difference. Now, ultimately, Rabbi Eliezer explains that this ruling stems from the passage in Vayikra, I think in chapter number 7, verse 7, that juxtaposes the sacrifices of the Chatat and Asham, indicating that their laws parallel one another. Now, this juxtaposition referred to as a, let's say, Hekesh, is accepted by all. Those who disagree with Rabbi Eliezer argue that it comes to teach over here a different law that is shared by those, let's say, these two sacrifices in themselves, that each of them needs a smicha in of itself. Now, this was taken from Rabbi Adin Steinsal's Shana Tova.